May it please Your Excellency, the House of Commons has elected me their Speaker, though I'm but little able...
That's what it sounded like 2 years ago in Ottawa for the opening of the last Parliament in the fall of 2019. 338 members of Parliament crowded into the Senate chamber for the stately proceedings, after the Liberals had won a second term under Justin Trudeau. Well, this Monday's official ceremony might not look exactly the same because of COVID restrictions, but Canada's newest Jewish members of Parliament are excited and feeling like it's the first day of school. Because in a way it is, for Melissa Lantsman, the newly elected Conservative MP for Thornhill, and also for Yara Sachs. Sachs won York Centre for the Liberals in a by-election just a year ago, and she was re-elected this time in September, but she hasn't actually sat inside the House of Commons in person because everything's been done mostly by Zoom during the pandemic. So this Monday, they'll both be in Ottawa, and they'll learn some important things like where their seats will be in the House of Commons. There are some serious issues on the government's agenda, like the floods in BC, the high cost of living, the pandemic, and tackling antisemitism. Meanwhile, both politicians plan to make their parliamentary offices look and feel proudly Jewish.
Let's have some fun in the office, put a mezuzah up, and make sure that the constituents of Thornhill know that this is a welcoming place to Jews, and that a Jewish person now occupies that seat for a little while.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, November the 22nd, 2021. Welcome to the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Canada's 44th Parliament is set to resume on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, although the real work won't start until later in the week after a Speaker is elected and when the Governor-General reads the speech from the throne, outlining the Liberals' major plans. There are about 10 pieces of legislation they want to introduce during the first 4 weeks, and on that list of interest to the Jewish community are laws to crack down on social media giants who allow online hate and terrorist content, and also child pornography, to be posted. There were 7 Jewish MPs re-elected, and the 8th, Lantsman, is the rookie, but she's already been appointed to the Conservatives' shadow cabinet as critic for transportation. Yara Sachs has been the point person for a new mental health program developed for MPs and their staff to help with the stress of public life during the pandemic. And both have security plans in place worked out with the House of Commons Sergeant-at-Arms in case of threats to their personal safety. And both have been targeted, including one death threat. Coming up, we'll speak with the pair. They may be on opposite sides politically, but they have a lot in common in how their Jewishness informs what this new session of Parliament will look like. First, though, here's what's making news elsewhere in Canada right now.
I'm Eric Bissell in Montreal, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like.
With the devastating floods in BC, the Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver has launched a fundraising drive for the communities and people in need. Federation donated $10,000, and by Friday the fund was at $27,000 and counting. Staff have also reached out to the community members they know of in the affected zones, and they're partnering with interfaith groups to see what help is needed in the short term and the long term. If you know anyone who's impacted, I'd love to speak with them for the CJN Daily, so please connect us. Monday won't be Melissa Lantsman's first time on Parliament Hill since the election, or Yara Sachs's either. Both were recently sworn into office in separate private ceremonies in Ottawa. And they join me now. So let's talk logistics. Can you start, Melissa, and tell us, how is it going to work? Have you got a place in Ottawa? What's the story with back and forth, or is it hybrid?
So we actually don't know the answer to that question yet. I suspect that it's going to be some version of hybrid, although I prefer that it's in person. And I've spent a little bit of time in Ottawa. We've had a number of caucus meetings. So I just got back on Friday morning, and it's in terms of a place. I'm gonna see how it goes. Lots of people had a place. We went into a pandemic, and those places sat empty. So for now, I'm gonna play it by ear and see if we can do the commute.
And what about you, Yara? What is the situation with your physical place here and going back to Ottawa?
So like Melissa said, we're in this interesting in-between place right now. We're going all going to be in the House on Monday, and it's nice to begin the session and get to work. But at the same time, you know, our House leaders and our whips are meeting and really hashing out what makes sense for all of us. You know, I often say to people, we have to remember every day at question period, there are close to 500 people in that room, between all 338 of us and translators and support staff, security teams, and all of those people. And we need to keep everyone safe, and we need to figure out what works best and the science behind that. And I'm sure we'll find a way forward, because we all want to get work done.
Do you know yet where you're going to be sitting?
No one really knows where their seat's going to be quite yet. Well, it'll be an exciting day on Monday. It's like first day of school situation. Where's my desk?
Can you describe for our listeners, Melissa, what it felt like to be sworn in? And then we'll ask, because you're the rookie, so then we'll ask Yara afterwards.
Well, it's one of those times where, you know, it happens in the movies where all the noise around you just stops and it goes quiet, and you realize this incredible responsibility that people have entrusted you with. And for me, it was a little bit of a subdued party. I'd like to have one of those like big parties with 1,000 people on the front lawn. I'm one of those people, but instead we were limited to to 20 people, including yourself. So it was my family and my closest friends. And one of the things that I will share. So mine was on October 28th, and the reason I know that date so well is that it's a day less of the day that my mother passed away. So last year, so it was almost. To have my father there, to have my entire family there, and to have my mom watching was very special, because I know that she would have wanted to be a part of the last year of my life, because she was cheering for all of the 36 years before that.
Did you? I know you used an art scroll sitter, because everyone was commenting on it on social media. Did you do anything other than that in terms of Jewishness for your swearing in?
I asked the House of Commons whether they had one, and they said no. So I'm like, BYOB, we're going to bring our own. And part of what I also got during my swearing in is I had the immense pleasure of taking over and filling the big shoes of Peter Kent. And he's passed on to me at the dinner that evening that we all had together a mezuzah that Rabbi Bulka, the late Rabbi Bulka of Ottawa, gave him to put on Thornhill's office door. Now, it's not my office; it's the office of the constituents of Thornhill, and that's made of the Iron Dome. So we'll also do that when the time comes, and hopefully we can mix it in with a bit of a Hanukkah celebration. And of course, that invite is extended to you, Yara. I'm in the Confederation building, and let's have some fun in the office. Put a mezuzah up, and
amazing. And Yara, how was yours? I saw you had 2 daughters, and I assume that older couple who were they?
It was my mom and my stepdad. And also, like Melissa, I brought my siddur from Associated when we came back from Israel. And I had done gun in Israel. I was this like punchy kid that really didn't speak much English, and got the siddur, and so we had my siddur, and then we had my daughter's chumash from Netivot from grade 1 as well. So I swore on both, because this is really from generation to generation. What we teach our children is how we model ourselves, and to have that legacy as I was being sworn in was really, really important to me. Like Melissa, I have a mezuzah ready to put up on my office door, and it's one that my kids made in school, because
I have one of those. Everybody keeps them.
Everyone has one of those, and nobody puts them up. So I'm putting mine up, because I think it's really important that we emphasize that Judaism isn't kind of this out there thing. It's very personal to each and every one of us. Whether it's a Hanukkah party in the office, Melissa, I'm down for sure.
All right, we need to pivot to the politics now. All the fun and touchy-feely stuff is over, and now we've got to talk about the first 100 days of government. There's a lot of eyes from the Jewish community on the Liberals. So Yara, with the opening of Parliament, what do you see? How quickly will this stuff get done? And then we'll send it back to Melissa.
So we made a very firm commitment that within the first 100 days that we would address the online hate legislation. And I'm really eager to get to work on that. And I am absolutely committed to this work. I was committed in my work on the Anti-Semitism Summit of getting it going. And I'm very proud of the work that we did that day. And I'm proud of the funding that came out of that. It was I advocated for $340,000 to UJA Federation to address online hate and do a study right here in Toronto, and working with our community to make sure that we're getting to the roots of it from the Jewish lens and the Jewish perspective, because that the narrative matters.
In terms of the anti-Semitism file and in terms of that, hate legislation for, Facebook, Anthony Housefather's committee has been working on it for, months and months. So it was a promise, the Prime Minister promised. What are you guys looking for?
Yeah, look, I haven't seen a piece of legislation, so it'd be hard to comment. But on anti-Semitism, we've seen a rise. We've seen the community be extremely, fearful and frankly more vocal than we have been in the last number of years on this, and that's because it's hitting home. And I've always talked about, well, we've got no deterrence in this system, and legislation is one step on online hate, and I think we've got to be very careful when the government starts regulating the internet. I think we saw a version of that come out in a bill on regulation on content. So we've got to be careful about what we're legislating on the internet, because I'm not sure that the answer is just get rid of all of it and it'll magically go away. I think there has to be another piece of this, and there has to be powerful deterrence to see that when somebody is painting a swastika on something, when somebody is carrying a flag, when anti-Semitism exists right here at home in my community, in Yara's community, in the communities around Toronto and around this country, that there is a consequence for doing that. And right now we haven't seen any of that. And I think it's really nice for everybody to say that this, that we have conferences and that this is not, that this is unacceptable. But at some point, the community is going to look at politicians and say, you got to do something to stop this. They're going to look at law enforcement. You got to do something to stop this. And so we can enable that.
Right. All right. Last little thing. Monday is a big day. People, when they go to school the first day, they get a new purse, they get a new tunic. Do you have anything specific or that you're bringing with you? Have you thought about it that you want to share with us?
Comfortable shoes to walk all over the precinct. Other than my house pin and a good attitude, just excited to walk into the house and see my colleagues.
Yeah, look, I will never say no to an excuse to buy a new pair of sneakers. I'm a sneakers person. I think there should be more sneakers in the House of Commons, and that's totally allowed. But I will pay tribute to my mother and wear one of the many things that I got from her, because I think there is one thing that I'm missing in all of this journey, and it's her seeing the end of it. So when I take my seat in the House of Commons, she will be there.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. Today's listener shout-out goes to Eileen Goldman. She's a former Montrealer living in California, and she listens to the CJN Daily in her car on her commute, and she sent me a photo to prove it. You can too. Let me know how you listen. And we'll close today's episode with a sneak peek at a story that we're working on about the Canadian Holocaust survivor from Austria who pushed Austria to build a Wall of Names Shoah monument. It was unveiled last week in Vienna.
It had an emotional impact on me to the extent that my two grandmothers are named on the wall. So they are not forgotten. And the 64,000 other Austrian Jews are not forgotten.